amazing. Wow.
Wow. We have tried everything to come on, and oh dear,
But we are on.
we are not giving up.
We're not giving up. Okay, so
Thank
we are
you so
here.
much for your patience.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, thank you.
Absolutely. Yes.
Awesome. Wow, it's so good to have you on my podcast, Kai.
And thank you for having me and
You're
being patient
welcome.
enough to keep trying. Thank you.
Yes, we don't give up.
Yes, we do not give
I
up.
think there's something God
Absolutely.
wants to bring out from today, and nothing
Yeah.
can stop it.
Nothing.
Yeah,
Nope. We're both here, ready. I feel like you should just get the questions out.
yeah,
Go ahead and start with the question.
yeah. So tell us about what you do, your background and everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I am a full-time pastor. My husband and I pastor together. We plant home fellowships in the United States and abroad. We come into different cities. Like for instance, we planted here in St. Louis, where I'm at today. 2 years ago, came into a community, renovated what once was a four apartment building into one home, and we do our fellowships here. So we have Bible studies, regular fellowship. We started in Los Angeles, where we have in 2013, where we have a fellowship there in Inglewood, California. And since then, we have Indiana, the country of Belize, and we'll be planting Tennessee and Dallas this year, along with a college ministry on UC Riverside campus in Los Angeles. So it continues to expand, and we're grateful. I also travel throughout the year teaching and preaching the word, which is my first love. I love communicating the gospel. I'm a teacher at heart, so that is the thing I love the most. I've been a worship leader for a long, long time.
Mm,
I don't lead anywhere specifically anymore, so people will call me in to do that. I have two praise and worship CDs that are out, and then last year I have finally did the thing that I've known since I was 10 I would do. I released my first book. It
mm,
is a 3-volume series called Dear Church, and it is centered around the necessity of unity within the body.
mm,
And so the first one came out in October, second volume comes out April 9th
okay.
of 2020, and the third installment comes out October of 2020. I have a
Wow.
dog that you can see back there.
Yeah.
His name is Lovin. I have been married to my husband. This will be 12 years.
Wow.
And I was married before for a year and a half, and then became a widow. My husband passed
Mm,
after a year and a half of marriage. So I've had 2 amazing marriages.
mm.
And I've been in full-time ministry 20 years now.
20 years. Wow.
hmm This
You
year
are
makes
blessed.
20 years. I am blessed. I know I'm always like, I'm not that old, but yeah, like,
Mm,
but
mm,
it's been great. God
mm,
has really, um, he's just blessed my life and enriched it in so many ways. This is
mm.
not what I would have ever thought I would be doing. This was not, when I was a kid, I was not, someone was like, I want to be a pastor. I wasn't a teenager or a 20-year-old. But then 22 came and he just shifted my life completely. Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
hmm
And you've been preaching
Yeah.
for 20 years, you said.
20 years now. I've been in ministry preaching the gospel for 20 years. Crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
Yes. My husband
So,
and I were just talking about that this morning. Yeah. Because in March, it'll be 25 years for him. So we were just having that conversation. Yeah.
wow.
hmm
You've been on a journey.
I have been on a journey. I have. But it's been, life is filled with ups and downs. But
Mhm.
the great thing that those who are believers of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, what we know is that He never leaves or forsakes us.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it just, regardless of the climate or the condition, we are not alone.
Mhm. 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 Mhm.
Yeah.
So, did you ever think or
hmm
imagine that one day you will be planting churches in different parts?
No. Well, I'll say this. Well, let me say this. When I went to Bible college,
Mhm.
I definitely knew that I was and I say this in this sense, when you're in Bible college, you're learning, the Bible says this, um, that the gifts to the church
Yeah.
are the pastor, the teacher, the evangelist, the prophet, and the apostle.
Mm-hmm.
So when we were learning the different offices,
Mm-hmm.
I understood that my role in the kingdom would be more apostolic.
Right.
And so, but in school, I was under pastoral track.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the classes that we actually had to take was church planting. And I remember it was a very intense course, and we had to actually plant a church. So we had to do everything from beginning to end. And I remember being working so hard and then so happy I got an A. But friends, the ministry I had come from, a husband and wife were actually leaving that ministry, and they asked if they could use my plan that I had done for school.
Right.
And at the time, I just was like, oh my gosh, I'm so honored, right? Just thinking, why are you sure? Why would you want to use my plan?
Yeah.
But never, I knew that I would help ministries plant. I never thought that I myself would be the one planting, if that makes sense. Yeah. So no, not me.
Not you.
Yeah.
So how did you transition from, having your dreams, you had your plans and everything? How did you transition? What happened to, just get your attention to know, okay, I'm going to be doing this. This is God calling me. Yeah.
So I had been in the music business since I was about 14, 15. So I had done studio work and demo work. I'm originally from Northern California. So I was born in Oakland and raised in that area. And I moved to New York when I was 22. I knew God was sending me to New York, but I thought it was to really pursue my career. And so a lot of people that you all have seen and know, I have worked with. I'm sorry, I heard my doorbell ring and I don't know if
right. Okay.
someone is downstairs.
That's why the dog's gone that way.
Yes. I don't know if my mom's caretaker left yet.
Right.
Okay, nope, they're good. They're good. They're good. They're good. I could hear someone. Yep, they're good.
Okay.
Awesome.
All right.
So I'm sorry.
No, it's fine.
So I went there. I was doing music, and so working with big stars, working at a production company. I was on staff as a songwriter, and then I started to learn how to engineer, and so I started engineering and doing all those things. After that year with that company, I then left and started my own production company with a friend of mine. And at that time, I started having insomnia. I could not sleep. And his father was a pastor. And so he said, my dad always says when, you're having trouble sleeping, that there might be something that's just unresolved in you spiritually.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay. I remember going to my place that night and literally God flooding my room and reminding me of things that had happened to me when I was in my teens, and things that I just never had really kind of dealt with or grieved. And I spent that like next 24 hours just allowing myself to cry and grieve and to pray. And that was the beginning. And after that, these series of events just happened. And so my uncle had passed like on a Monday. But the week prior, I had been given an audition to sing background for D'Angelo.
Right. Wow.
So I called my mom and I was like, well, my uncle passed. I can't go to the audition. She was like, no, he will want you to go to the audition. So I went to the audition. I never even sang. They came out, they took a picture of me, and they said, we'll let you know. And I was like, what? Like, this is the weirdest thing ever. Well, I got a call and I got the audition. And so was there. Another young lady I had known in around New York. We both got the audition. We both got the job. And so he was doing a live video. We did the video. When the video was done, there was a gentleman walking around, and he come to me and he was like, "Have you ever been an extra in a movie?" And I was like, "No, and I don't want to be." And he was like, "No, you should do extra work. They make good money. Like, you should do it." And I was like, "Yeah, I'm really not interested." So he
Yeah.
gives me the papers, like, "Just think about it." So I was like, "Okay."
Mm.
So I go home that night, called my mother and I, because I lived in New York. She lived in Cali. She would call every day at about 8 a.m. my time, where she
Yeah.
was going to work. And so we called. I said, "Yeah, this guy came and told me about it." She's like, "You should do it. You should just do it. Just try it." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." So I do. I get a call that the movie's happening. Like a week later, I go to the movie. So, we're all in this big room, and they're calling people. I meet another young lady. They're calling people by the droves, but
Mm.
they're not calling us. So while we're sitting there, a woman comes in that looked homeless,
Oh, okay.
and she caught my attention. And she had on this brown coat, and she just looked really disheveled. And
Mm-hmm.
she walked up to our table and said, "Did any of you sing gospel music?" And I thought, this is the craziest question from a homeless person.
Yeah.
And so the girl I had just met had told me she sang. So I was like, I do. And she's like, "I do." She hands us these flyers and says, "We'll take these. They're holding auditions. They're looking for gospel singers." And
Oh.
so while I'm looking, I look up and she is gone,
Ooh. Wow.
gone. And so I'm like, okay. When she leaves, they call myself and the other girl's name. They don't tell you what the movie is. So we
No.
get on this corner. We're there. They're saying, "We're about to bring out the principal, and what you guys are going to do, you're going to cross the street, and then you're going to come back." Okay.
Mm.
So they bring the person out, but I don't turn around, and they're like, "Action." And before we look, and it's Jamie Foxx. And we're like, "What?"
Oh, really?
And so it was his first movie called Bait. So we crossed the street, we came
Oh.
back. But he spoke to everyone but me and the other young woman who at the time, we were the only people of color.
Right.
And so the next time he he said something to us, and I said, "Oh, so now you want to talk to us?" And
Mm-hmm.
the director said, "Cut." I mean, said, "Action,"
Ah.
and we walked and came back. So when it was done, he was like, "Who are you? And where are you from?" And so that just ensued. So it was a great day. I go
Mm-hmm.
home. I tell my mom the next day about this, the homeless woman that gave me the thing. She's like, "You should audition." And I'm like, "But I don't even know." So I go. And when I tell you, like, I am like so not for it, I
Mm.
go in some overalls and a t-shirt. I would never go to overall, like,
Yeah.
for an audition. And when I get there, they tour in Europe. Now, for the 2 years prior to that, I've been telling my mom, "I'm going to Europe. I just
Mm.
don't know when."
Mm-hmm.
And then the beginning of that year, which was 99, I said, "I'm going this year, and I'm going in October." And my mom
Mm.
said, "What are you going to do?" I said, "I don't know, but I
Wow.
know that I'm going, and I'm going in October."
October. Yeah.
So this is now September. So I go to the audition. I'm in overalls and all the thing.
Mm.
Another young lady comes in, and when I see her, I'm like, she is all things gospel. She is going to win.
Mm.
So just go in there, sing, and get out of here, right? So I go in, I sing, I leave. She sings. She's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Next 2 days, they call me and say, "Hey, we want you to come with us. However, the tour we want you to come on leaves in 2 weeks," which was October
Oh,
1st.
wow.
And so I ended up being in Germany for 3 months, singing gospel music for 3 months,
In Germany.
and in Germany. And while I was there, my roommate and I, who is still one of my closest friends to this day, we didn't know each other. We became roommates.
Mm-hmm.
We had 2 days off in 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
And one day we walked around and we went into this cathedral. And when we were in the cathedral, I audibly heard the Lord say, "I'm calling you to preach." And
Mm.
I started laughing. I thought it was the funniest thing I had ever heard, because I was
Like
like,
Sarah.
"Preach?" No, literally. And I was like, "Don't you mean sing?" Like, what? And he said it again, but the next time he said it, it was like a punch to my gut.
Mm.
And I knew.
Mm.
And from that moment, I shifted everything in my life. When we got back to New York, I shut down the production company. I went back home. He told me to prepare my family for what he had called me to do.
Mm-hmm.
And my mother had just joined this new ministry. And when I got to that ministry, the pastor was like, "God's called you." And He started training me, and within a month and a half, I started teaching.
Wow.
And I was like, you know, and then in my mind, I was like, if I was a doctor, right, I would go to school.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, I got to go to school.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are like, no, you don't. I was like, no, I do.
Mm-hmm.
Because this is serious. If
Mm-hmm.
this is going to be, this is my career. This is my job. Jesus is now my job. I need to be trained and educated because I need to be able to communicate the gospel in a way that people who were young like me or like me, you know, can really take a hold and encounter God, not just experience church. Because there's a difference. When you encounter God, nothing is ever the same. You can always tap into that place. When you experience a ministry, you experience church, you have seasons, right? Where you feel it or where you don't. But when you encounter God, you can be in the grocery store and feel his manifest presence come over you. You know how to tap into his presence, his spirit, and stay connected even through the hardest times in your life. And so that moment anchored everything else that has ever happened in my life. So
wow, that's an awesome experience.
That's crazy.
That's an encounter you had right there.
Yeah, literally.
That woman could have been an angel, angelic visitation.
Now, let me tell you this. So then the end of this story is in 2009, I'm now remarried. My godfather asked me and my husband to come to Los Angeles and help him with his ministry, which was a pretty good sized ministry. We're there, and one of the young students, I started ministry. She was a dancer. Her parents were just phenomenal people, very creative. They were from New York and moved to LA. And so we had invited them to dinner. And so we are talking and they're asking me the same kind of thing you did. Well, how, Pascal, you? So I start telling the story. And when I tell the story, the husband looks at the wife looks at the husband. And so I'm like, okay. And so I keep telling the story. And I said, you know, I have always, like, I looked for that woman and I never could find that woman. And so they were like, so when was this? And they were like, what is the name of the group?
Yeah.
And I told them the name of the group. And she said, that was me.
Really?
This woman I had become so, and here's the thing, the first time I had ever met her, which was in 2004, she had visited. I was like, she kind of looks like that, but I would never have, right? Never. But I was like, if I could tell anybody who the lady kind of looked like, I was like, she kind of reminds me of like Nene. But when I met Nene, of course, Nene is, right, she doesn't look homeless.
Yeah.
And I started to well up. And my husband grabbed my head. She's like, what? I said, you don't understand. I was like, anyone who knows me, my husband, I said, I have told everybody, if I ever see that woman again, I have to thank her, because if she had never given me that flyer, I would not have been in Germany and been called. Like my life would have went, not that God wouldn't have found me in another way.
Yeah, yeah.
I was like, but the way it was, I was like, and you just disappeared. I was like, I never, and the fact now that God has been so gracious enough to let me mentor your child, I can't. I can't. Now her daughter's married. You know, it's unreal. And I was like, and you're my friend. Like, we're friends. And you were the person who, I was like, he used you to begin everything that I do now. And I was like, and you're sitting in my house. And I literally, there would be times I'd be like, Lord, please let me see her again. Like, please just, I don't even know how, because she's homeless, but let me. And there she was on my couch.
Was she actually homeless at the time?
She was not.
Right, but she looked it.
She did. She was like, yeah, I had this, it was a big coat, and she did. She did. And she was like, that is so, like, I was like, she had this brown coat, and they just kept looking at each other. I was like, why are they looking like that? And then when I was like, it was the Glory Gospel singer, she said, that was me.
Oh.
And I was like, and then as soon as she said it though, it was like, I saw her in those clothes, and I was like, it was you.
Oh,
And I said, I'm telling you, the first time I met you, I kind of thought, oh, if I could ever get like close enough to kind of like her face, but not. Yeah.
wow.
And so she's a part of my life to this day.
To this day.
To this day.
Hmm. That's a God
Yeah.
story right there.
Yeah. And literally 10 years. Because it was 99 I went, and it was 2009, 10 when we remembered this moment.
10 years later.
10 years later. In LA.
In
We met in New York. And now we were both in Los Angeles. Neither one of us from Los Angeles, but both there at this ministry. Only God. Only
Nothing
God.
like coincidences with God.
Mm-mm.
Mm.
Mm-mm.
Mm.
No
Wow.
way. Yeah.
So at that time, were you single at that time? When you
I
went for
was.
the audition, you were. So here
I
you were, a
was.
single lady, went to Germany and
Mm-hmm.
all that. So when did you meet your husband?
My roommate in Germany
Yeah.
introduced me to my first husband.
Oh, wow.
Yes, and we were friends first.
Mm.
Um, but she was a part of a ministry that he was over. It was young people.
Mhm.
And when she came back home, she showed him a picture, and he said, I need to talk to her.
Mm.
And it wasn't for relationship.
Yeah.
He just said the Spirit of God has showed him he needed to talk to me. So I came that following April for her wedding, and he and I just connected, and we were best friends.
Mm.
And he ended up getting married, and I ended up going to Bible college, and we
Mm.
were doing our lives.
Mhm.
And in um, 2005, I hadn't talked to him maybe like 3 years. Another friend of mine called, and we're talking. All of a sudden, I hear this other voice on the phone. I'm like, "Who is that?" And my first husband's name was Ty,
Mhm.
and so he started he asked me if I would come work. He was starting a ministry, and if I would come work for him, and I was like, "That's never gonna happen."
Oh.
I was like, "No, that's no." And then finally one night he sent me an email and said, "Actually, I'm not coming to ask you to work with me." He said, "I'm coming to do the thing I was always supposed to do, which was to
Oh.
marry you." Because when
Mm.
we were friends, because he was engaged, people would assume I was his fiance, and I was like, "I'm not." And I
Mhm.
knew his fiance. She and I are friends.
Friends.
And but people would prophesy, and people had come to him, or people had come to me and was like, "No, you two are supposed to be together." And I was like, "Well, he got somebody, and I'm over here." That's like, no. But it would happen a lot.
Mm.
But we moved on with life, and he was
Mhm.
like, "I was always supposed to marry you." And I was very angry when it came like, "I'm not doing that. I'm not marrying you." And then the Lord had his way and spoke, and I was like, "Oh, come on." But it was a person I loved. I mean, he was my best friend.
Yeah.
I just, we hadn't talked, and it was like we had never not talked. So, and then we got married in 2006,
Mm.
January 28th, and he passed March 22nd on 2007. And what was interesting about that was March 22nd, 2005 was when he had actually sent me the email about wanting to marry me. Like
Mm.
that was what he was coming to do.
To do.
And then he
Mm.
passed March 22nd, 2 years later.
So sorry to hear that. May his soul rest in
Yeah.
peace. Yeah.
Amen. Yes,
So
absolutely.
here you were, you
Hmm.
know, enjoying life,
Yeah.
and then being called into ministry after you had an
Hmm.
encounter,
Hmm.
and then married to this lovely man,
Hmm.
and 2 years later he's gone.
Hmm.
So what did that do to you?
Oh.
Enjoying ministry, preaching, and all of a
Hmm.
sudden, when you thought
Yeah.
my life is just starting,
Yeah.
as a Christian
Um.
lady, how did you deal with that?
Oh, Jesus. So so we're at that time, I'm like 7 years in the ministry, and we are building a ministry.
Hmm.
He and I are building our own ministry.
Yeah.
So I was wrecked, just wrecked.
Mm.
And at the same time, I understood I was still responsible. So
Mm.
there were still, so the first, so my husband passed away at 3:05 in the morning. I went
Wow.
home. I remember getting home and it really hitting me. and I couldn't sleep. I called 4 people. The last person I called was my brother, and I hadn't slept in 3 days prior to that. I had slept for a few hours at the hospital. They finally made me go to sleep, and I woke up at 8 to a phone call. But I had slept so hard, I thought everything was a dream. And my phone was ringing, and when I answered the phone, the person said, "I'm so sorry for your loss." And and before I knew it, all of our friends, I did not know anyone was in my apartment. All of our friends rushed into my room and got on the bed with me, started praying over me, holding me. My mother came in. And what is very interesting is my current husband was a minister at the ministry we were a part of. His wife had just passed 6 months prior, and my husband had been ministering to him during that time. And so he called during the time that happened, and my mom was like, "Can you just come and talk to her?" And I remember him coming in. I remember him sitting next to me and my friend still being there. I, to this day, cannot tell you what he was saying, but all I heard the Lord say was, "If you don't get up now, you will never get up." So I just knew to get up.
Yeah.
I couldn't do my hair. I couldn't brush my teeth. I couldn't do anything. I could just get up.
No.
And so my friends really took care of me every day. But the one thing I did know was I was not going to suppress how I felt. So I told people, if you're here and I start crying, please don't try to run over. Please don't tell me not to cry. Please just let me have my moment, because I will never get over this, but I will get through it. And a lot of people are telling people in death to get over it.
Yeah.
You're not going to get over it.
No.
It has been 13 and a half years. I am still not over it, but I am through it.
Good. Yeah.
But I will never be over that. It's a piece of my life. He holds a piece of my heart. Is only occupied for him. But I was wrecked. But I knew I had to make it. The only thing that I had was my mind. And so I knew I could mentally make decisions, because I knew people were like, "Well, what's next for the ministry? What are you going to do? Where are you going to go?" But I knew that every day that I got up, if I didn't get up, there were a whole bunch of people who wouldn't have either. So I leaned into the fact that people were watching me even for their healing. And I just, every day, just took another step every day. There were days we had to comb my hair, help me put on clothes. And that wasn't long, but I have such a great support system in the community of women in my life. And they descended and they stayed. They made me laugh. They were there. My family, my father, my mother, my brother were just absolutely amazing. However, people go home, and then you're with yourself, by yourself. And so what started happening to me is I started dreaming, and every dream I would have, my husband didn't die. He faked his death and left me and went somewhere else to another family, another person. And so I would find him and be like, "What happened? Why did you?" So even though I knew he died, what I felt was he left me. I was like, "You left me. You left me by myself. You left me here to finish this work. You left me." And I couldn't shake that feeling.
Was that a feeling of rejection or abandonment?
Oh, I definitely, not rejected.
Okay.
But definitely abandoned. Like you went, why you just left, even though I knew he didn't leave. You died. That's a very different thing. And I would feel bad for feeling that. And I think that once that feeling happened, the enemy used these dreams to kind of, you know what I mean? Like keep that feeling of you left me, even though I would go, but he didn't leave me, he died. And I had those dreams for like a year. And I mean, they would be so real. And I'd be like, but he's dead. And then all of a sudden some time would pass, and then I would find out, and I would always end up going to the place he was and confronting him, like, what happened? Why would you do this? And a lot of times he wouldn't come outside. He wouldn't. And I was like, that's not even who he is. Like, he would have, so it was all of these just different things. But it was like, you left. That was the feeling. And after a year, I really had to, God was like, you need to deal, you're mad at him. And I was like, well, no, I'm not mad at him. He died. He's like, no, you're mad at him. And I realized I was mad because I had translated his death into leaving me, which means you did something to me, right? Yeah. You hurt me, which he didn't. But that's how, it was so sudden. It was so abrupt. It was so unexpected that was the only thing my feelings could articulate was I got left. I left the hospital alone. I walked in my house alone. Now I have to do this alone. So you left me. Yeah.
That must have been a very difficult time.
What's interesting is not a lot of people even knew that I felt that way. Because God had healed so many other places in me regarding all of that, and again, kept me very surrounded, that I was not enjoying life again. That takes time, but I was still I started enjoying life, and I started being, back involved. But that feeling was just with me. I never communicated to anybody else. He left me. I felt like he never. Because when it would come, I felt bad because I was like, that's not true. It's like, it was not something I was not aware of. I could say that is not true. That is not real. Yeah. But I could not get it outside of me. I was like, why can't I shake what I know not to be real? And I think that had I not known that it was not real, it would have taken me down a very, very scary path. Yeah. Very scary path. I probably would have suffocated under the weight of that. Yeah.
Absolutely. What I hear you say, and I think many people fail to do this, you acknowledged your feelings. Yes. You recognized your feelings and you allowed yourself grieve.
Yeah.
So I think that's very important in the healing process.
Yes, it's one of the things I teach when I'm counseling, and even especially talking with women, because we have a lot of emotion. Is the thing that I always say to myself is this: what do I know, and what do I feel? Because what I feel isn't always what I know, right? What do I know? I know. In that sense, right? I know my husband died. He did not, we're not divorced. He didn't abandon me. He didn't reject me. I feel like he left me. But what I know, right? So every time that my feeling wants to take me, because feelings will cause you to fail a lot. So when my feeling wants to take me down a road that I know is paved by the enemy, I need to get back to what I know, right? So when I feel alone, what I know is God hasn't forsaken me or left me. When I feel, right, fear, I know he's not giving me the spirit of fear, right? And that's why it's so important that we have a wealth of knowledge of the word, because I have to have something that I know is true when my feelings want to make me follow them. So I always am like, that knowing is the only thing that didn't keep, that path was ready for me to just fall into. It was ready. And it could have been very easy to do, because here's the thing. Everyone would have justified, well, you lost your husband. Yeah. Nobody would have been like, well, she should, of course she got there. She just suffered the worst thing. She's young. She was only married. She's absolutely, and would have allowed me to go there. And that's some things that we have to really be careful about, is we can allow people, because of certain situations or circumstances, to go into some dark places and not really understand that those are set up to destroy them, right? So there's a difference from allowing yourself to feel the weight of something and then allowing yourself to fall under the weight of something.
Yeah.
I refuse to fall under the weight of it. I felt it, but I was not going to fall under it. So that's why every time I felt something, I didn't stop myself from feeling it. I didn't hold my tears back. I didn't hold my anger back, right? I didn't put it on anyone else. But every time, it still happens today. I could watch a show that has nothing to do about nothing and start bawling, because here's the thing. I miss my first husband. Things that have happened in my life that he prophesied would happen, when they happen, I want to call him and I can't. I want to tell him and I can't. I want to tell him how amazing my marriage is. Like, I want to, like, but I can't. Those are the things that I'm like, oh, you know, or I'll have this great memory of him and I just, you know, his birthday comes, you know, things, I'm never going to forget those things.
No.
I'm not. But what I won't do is allow the weight of the loss to suffocate me. No. I celebrate his life.
Yes.
Right? Do I still feel the pain of his loss? Yes, because there are things that I want to do or say or, you know, with him. And it doesn't take anything away from what I have now. Yeah. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's making a lot of sense. I'm thinking, as you're speaking, you know, of women who are in this position today, you know, who are in what you went through, and thinking that's the end of the world. How can they get out of this? You know, so I think your story would really help a lot of women out there, because here you are today, you are married again, you are happy. You know, so can you please, what can you say to women out there?
Yeah,
feeling the same.
I think one of the things that I realized, you know, even though the Bible says that our God loves the widows and the orphans, we don't do much for widows. We don't. I had great friends who, you know, when you're going through things, let me tell you what I wasn't thinking about was the bills. But guess what? The bills got to get paid, right? Life still happens.
Life happens.
Oh my gosh! In the way to your grief, they don't give you a break on the cable bill. They don't give you a break on the light bill. You know, they don't like, oh, your husband died, so we'll give you 6 months. They don't do that. And so there were things that you know, when the bill comes, but I wasn't thinking about that.
No.
And so I had a friend who is a very, very well-known pastor now, but at the time, we've known each other for years. He had come in for the funeral and he had left. And about 3 days later, my doorbell rings and this gentleman is at the door and he's, and I'm going to say his name because I will tell everyone, Pastor John Gray.
Okay.
So Pastor John and we toured in Germany together. That is my brother, my friend.
Wow.
And so he had come, he had been friends with my husband. And this gentleman comes and says, Pastor John sent me to give this basket to you. It was a beautiful basket. You know, it was, you know, just different things in it. And all of a sudden, and then there was an envelope with the card. So I went and looked at the card. I did not know when he had left. He had a blog at the time and he had wrote the story about me and asked people to seed about his friend who died and his friend who is now a young widow. And he was like, I don't have all the resources because we were just young.
Very young, yeah.
Yeah. And they had raised something like $3,000 for me. I was floored because I didn't expect that. But I needed it. I didn't even know I needed it.
Yeah.
But I needed it.
Yeah.
Things were gonna come, and I needed it, right? The ministry we were part of at the time, they raised, I mean, I needed it. But I say all that to say, but I've had women who may have met me somewhere, or seen me somewhere, and they would reach out to me and say, I have a friend who just lost their spouse. Would you speak to them? And at the first, and I was like, well, what am I gonna say? Um, and now I've been doing it for years, because we don't have these ministries. When we go to, ministries, we have the divorce ministry, single ministry, women's ministry, men's ministry, Titus ministry. We have all these things, but we don't have a space where people who are widowed can come together and talk and share. I'm always looking for the marriage conference. It's gonna, when they send the invitation, and they'll say it's for single, married, divorced. They'll say that all the time, but no one ever says and the widow, because being a widow is not being divorced.
No.
You are divorced, you can see that person again.
Yeah.
When you are a widow, you never get to see that person again.
It's
when you
final.
are a widower, you never get to see that. It is final. And we have to start making spaces in the kingdom for the widow and the widower, because the Lord himself says we're supposed to. So when people call me and say, my friend, I'm like, tell them to call me, give me their number, I will call. And just, if I only speak to them once, you know what I mean? But just so they know they are not alone, and that there is another side, and that healing is available to them, that the weight of this will not kill them if they don't allow it to. And don't let people talk you into getting over it. You're not. And when I say that, people are like, thank you so much, because I feel like everyone just wants me to just get over it and just stop crying and stop. You have widows. I didn't have kids. There are women that I call, that people, and they have small children.
Yeah.
That in their mind, they don't have an opportunity to cry because they've got to raise their babies. And I'm like, you have to take the opportunity, because if not, that is going to come out somewhere at a time you do not want it to come out. How can we get some support? Who can we get to watch your kids so you can go for 3 days? And what, you know what I mean? Like, we have to, ladies, you're just not alone. If you are a widow, you're not alone. You can call me, but you're not alone, really.
Wow, it's interesting we're having this conversation, because last year I started a foundation for widows and orphans.
I love it.
So yeah, I'll be getting you involved.
Yes. Amen.
It's
no,
new.
It's
new,
a necessity.
Yeah.
Good for you. Well, thank you for doing that.
Oh, it's so
no, really, thank you. Yeah.
Oh my. So you've come out of that now, and you are remarried, happily remarried.
I am.
Yeah.
Yes, and I did not think I would be remarried. I tell everyone, my husband, I did not pray for my husband. I did not ask for my husband. I tell everyone, my husband is the gift that Jesus gave me, because I was okay with being single for the rest of my life, because I had a great marriage. I wasn't, I wasn't like, oh, I need to be married again. I just didn't even think it would happen. Because really, I was like, well, I had a great marriage. I got one. So, okay. But my husband, God gave me my husband. I didn't ask for him. I didn't pray for him, but I am thankful for him every single day, because he is a blessing. And also, to be with someone who understands what you've been through. Is very unique, right? Because neither one of us feel a certain way when the other person does have a moment about what was, right? There's no competition. When we got together, our biggest thing was we both, his spouse was sick, my husband was sick. And so both of us were just like trying to take care of each other. Then finally one day I had to go, neither one of us are sick. So, but when you're used to, trying to take care of someone else. So, so we were just in, and like for me, even though my husband didn't die in a car accident or didn't, for the first year when my current husband would leave the house, I'd be like, call me when you get there, and call me when and call me. And
Oh,
I didn't even realize I was doing it. And
doing
then
that.
finally one
Yeah.
day he was like, are you always like that? He's like, I don't mind. And he would do it. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, you're like, call me when you get there. Call me when you're leaving. And call me when and I was like, oh my God. I was like, oh no, I'm scared. I was like, I'm scared you're going to die.
Oh,
I was like, because it's, it was a year and a half. So that's the only marker I have, right? He was married almost 8 years. So, it's a little different. But I
yeah.
was like, that's the only marker I have,
Mm.
so we celebrate every 5 years, because for us, it means something very different for us.
That's
So
beautiful.
when I made it to 2 years, I was like, oh my God, I'm 2 years married, And then when we made it to 8, he was like, I made it to 8 years with someone, and now we just like, we're about to be married 12 years. Like, when did all this, but we celebrate and we
Mhm.
honor life and life together, because we understand how fragile and how quick
Life,
it
yeah.
can just be something different,
Hmm. Hmm.
So I'm grateful that he was able to walk with me
Hmm.
and not be like, I'm not gonna call you, like, stop asking me to, he just was like, maybe it's what she does. But then when he said it, it caused me to be like, oh, I'm so sorry. I
Wow.
need to deal with this, because I think I'm afraid. And even though my husband didn't die like that, but I realized it was the time frame. Like, I
Right.
only had this much time. I only, so I got to make sure you all right. You got to
Yeah.
stay around for a while. I was like, sorry, you're not going to do the same thing. So
Mm.
yeah. So, but it is possible to love again and be loved well,
Mm.
and still honor and still protect what you had. Because I tell people this all the time. I was telling my friend yesterday who's getting married. I said, there are some people who only know me as Ty husband's wife.
Ah,
That's how they know me. That's the relationship.
yeah.
So I can't dishonor how they know me.
No,
I can't.
no.
There are some people who never knew there was anybody else but my current husband.
Hmm. Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? I can't
Hmm.
dishonor that.
No.
But I have to, there's a full picture to my story.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah,
It's recognizing the whole picture, isn't it?
absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow. I love how God has taken you every step of the way
Ooh,
and has,
only.
yeah, given you support, even with the church
Mm-hmm.
family,
Yeah,
all
yeah.
along the way. And you having deep roots in the knowledge in the Word of God,
Mm-hmm.
that helped
Mm-hmm.
as well.
Ooh.
You know,
No, that I think that helped more than anything,
yeah, yeah.
because I could stand on the word, really stand on it.
Hmm.
Scriptures that I knew now had um a tangibility to them, right? Where I knew them and believed them. Now I could hold them, like
Hmm.
I could see them in my hand, then manifest inside of me.
Wow. Mm,
Mm-hmm.
mm, mm, mm. I heard someone once say that if we don't have deep roots in God's word, the devil will build monuments, you know,
Mm,
and then
yeah,
we start to believe and fall under the weight of these monuments and can't
yeah.
stand right back up again. But when we have deep roots in the word of God, we're able
Mm-hmm.
to say, no, this is only a feeling. That's not the truth,
Yeah.
you know?
I totally agree with that.
And then we stand right back up and say, no, this is what the word of God says. I'm standing on this
Mm-hmm.
word.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that helped you right there.
Oh, yes, yes, yes.
God is,
I totally agree with that. He's
yeah,
amazing.
yeah,
He's amazing.
yeah. Now you're an author. Tell us all about your book.
Yes. So the book is called Dear Church. There's 3 volumes. The
Mm-hmm.
first volume is entitled The Beauty of the Body. And so it deals with the divide that we have in the body,
Mm-hmm.
the racial tension we have within the body, the racial disunity we have in the body,
Mm.
all the schisms that still exist.
Mm.
We're still debating, are women supposed to be preaching? You know what I mean? And so using First Corinthians 12, where it talks about that we are many parts, but we are one body,
One body, yeah.
as the basis, the theme scripture. Of course, we talk about other scriptures. But one of the things that, there are a lot of voices that are talking about racial reconciliation. But one of the things that I have seen for a long time is I think that on both ends, and I always tell people this: when I'm talking about people of color, I'm not just talking about Black people or African Americans. I am talking about Latino, Asian. My husband is a Puerto Rican Cuban man.
Okay.
And I'm also, talking about men and women. We still have some of those dynamics. And I have been afforded to be in different arenas as a Black woman in Caucasian ministries in different places that a lot of us are not always afforded. But I have stood there in certain spaces and thought, so how do we call these spaces multi-ethnic or multicultural, and predominantly are still very heavy in one race? Even with us and if we want to, use Black church, the same. It's the same. So, but I think that when we have talked about racial reconciliation, we have done a lot of pointing fingers at each other.
Yeah.
And so God really burdened in my heart, his heart, around 2015. And so the way that the books are written is that the only person you can point the finger at is yourself. And so what is your responsibility for racial reconciliation, or just reconciliation period, because we serve a God of reconciliation. So I always say this is, whatever the question is or whatever the problem is, there's only one question: what is God's heart concerning that? Whatever that is, what is God's heart concerning it? Not yours, God's.
Yeah.
Right. So so we speak about that, and then the book has each book has a personal challenge to really help each of us confront some things that we may not even realize are laying on the inside of us. And so the second one comes out in, like I said, April 9th.
Yeah.
It's also my birthday. And it is Dear Church, and this is Living and Leading Together.
Right.
And the last one, is October, and that will be Dear Church, Becoming the Bride.
Okay.
God is coming back for a bride. He's not, I hate to disappoint him, but he's not coming back for your local ministry. He's coming back for a bride. And, so we have to become that bride. And I think that we just have leaned very heavily into our preferences versus a biblical standard.
Exactly, yes.
And so I prefer this, and then we make our preferences a theology, and they're not. And so, or a doctrine, right, that we live by. And so where your denomination's preference is this does not necessarily mean it is biblically based, right? A preference stems from a personal desire or feeling, because I prefer these things, and I prefer this kind of music. So I choose to go here. Now, here's the thing. We will choose music over the word. So we'll be like, the music is amazing. They're pretty good teaching, but I prefer to have great music, so I'll go there. But you could potentially be spiritually dying because you're not being fed correctly. Oh, but you got great music. Your music is amazing. You know what I mean? So really dealing with how our preferences are bleeding into our faith.
Yes. Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
So it's about looking at God and not us, not our preferences, but building the kingdom, right? The heart of God.
The heart of God. Yeah. So many of us can't live a biblical standard because we don't live biblical lives. We don't have word lives. We don't have enough word in us to actually apply it out, right? So we put so much responsibility on the pastors and the ministers, right? But when you leave there, you're responsible for your relationship and connection with the Lord. Not a man, not a woman, not any. They are shepherding you, but they are not responsible for your personal relationship. And so with that, a lot of us are wondering why, we're crumbling during the weeks. Well, because you have decided that your God relationship only exists in a building,
On Sunday.
only exists at Bible study, only exists
Mhm.
in the worship, right? In the music, in the auxiliaries. And so when you leave that space, you don't, you would never say it, but you are leaving the God you know.
Mm.
And so we are crumbling under the weight of life on these other days because
Mm.
we have not taken responsibility for our relationship with our God and invited him into our everyday,
Yeah.
not just our Sunday, our
Mm.
everyday.
Mm. Wow, that sounds like an amazing book. I would like to get one.
I will send you one.
So is it on Amazon?
It is on Amazon, yes.
Okay. Okay.
Hmm. Yeah,
Wow.
so it's on Amazon, yes.
Mm. So I
Hmm.
would like to, maybe you can send me the link later. I'll put it in the
Yes,
description
yes, yes,
for
absolutely,
everyone who wants to get it.
absolutely.
But
Yes,
it sounds
ma'am,
like it's an
absolutely.
amazing book. You've done
It's
really well.
and they're small. I can actually show you one.
Okay.
And they're small books. They're easy reads, but weighty. So, so here is the book, Dear
Oh, wow.
Church. Yeah, so there'll be, it's three of these but this is the first one.
First one. Yeah.
And yeah, first one, and then the second one comes out in a month and a half, 2 months. So
Okay.
yeah,
Oh, I look forward
absolutely.
to reading that.
Yes, 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 absolutely.
Mm. You
Hmm.
have an amazing story that I know will go on to impact so many lives. Thank you so much for sharing.
Oh, thank you for continuing to make this happen for us. I am so honored to be on your podcast, on your YouTube channel. My desire, I know what God has called me to do, which is to communicate the gospel, across the country. So I can't wait till we meet in person.
Yes, I can't
Yes,
wait either. I'm looking forward to that.
yes, and keep doing what you're doing. It's awesome, and I'm really excited about just the work that God has placed in your hands and watching that
Oh,
grow.
thank you very much.
You're so
What else would
welcome.
you like the audience to know about you, or what else would you like to share before we end the podcast?
Oh gosh, what do I want you guys to know about me? Um, I feel like I probably told you too much already. I love speaking. My desire now is to be doing that more, outside of just what I do. And so uh, I know that that is what God is called, and so um, I love to speak and teach the word. What else? I'm very easy, laid back. If I wasn't a preacher, I would be a hermit.
Ah,
Literally, I love. Yeah. I don't ever have to leave my house. I'm barely ever in my house, but I'm the person that yeah, I love people, but I could really be by myself.
yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah.
so there's, yeah. So, yeah, so I was always like, are you sure, Lord? Because, I like to just stay at home. But I love him and his people so much that I do whatever. What else? Anything else? I'm trying to think.
Mm.
I don't
It's
know.
interesting how God uses people, because I used to be an extremely shy person. I could
Mm,
never dream of doing this,
yeah, yeah,
you
yeah,
know.
yeah.
But
See, he
now,
knows what he's
you know,
doing. Yeah.
doing this, doing
Mm-hmm.
YouTube and all that, so all for God. So
All forgot. He knows, right? He knows
yeah,
if we say, yes to him. It's interesting. I was teaching on the yes of God last night, and so this morning I was waiting for my car window, right,
yeah,
to
yeah.
get done, and I just wrote really big in my journal, yes, and I was like, okay, and all of a sudden I saw these words next to him, and God was like, the yes is you encountering surrender.
Hmm.
And I was like, because that's what happens in our yes,
Yeah.
right? It's me encountering surrender. I'm in agreement with what you're saying, but in my agreement, I have to surrender to it.
Hmm.
And so you said yes, right? You encountered surrender in something that is not innately, right, maybe comfortable. But
Yes.
when we know that God is is calling, that we know it's not in our abilities, it's in his capability to transform us into what he desires us to become. But that yes is us saying, okay, in this moment I encounter surrender. I'm encountering this. Whoa, what is happening? I would not have said yes to this. But I have met with the Lord who causes me to go, okay, I submit, I put myself under this, knowing that if it is your will, even who I'm not, Moses, will work out.
True.
Yeah. So, yep. That's all.
I have loved every moment.
Me too. Thank you so much.
It's been nice seeing you on camera.
Yes.
Keep being a blessing. Keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you.
you are impacting so many lives.
Thank you so much.
That's beautiful. Yes.
Thank you. Well, have a good night because you're hours ahead of me.
Yes, it's
yes.
It's 9:30 p.m. over here.
Yes. Please go to bed. It's only 3:30 here.
Thank you so much, Kai. Have a great
God bless
day.
you.
All right.
Me
God
too.
bless you.
All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.